All right, folks, welcome back. It's been a little while since I've hosted, um, other than the little mic test that's gone. But today, 23rd June, has been a day that has seen a lot of emotion, and a lot of it is based in falsehoods. The opinion issued by Supreme Court Justice Alito today does not criminalize or make anything illegal. It simply states that as the Constitution does not specifically delegate the power to legislate on this one thing to the state or federal government is reserved for the people or state governments. That is the essence of the 10th Amendment. Anything that is not specifically given to the Fed as a power of the Fed is reserved for the states. An example of that would be the Second Amendment or the First Amendment. The first would actually be a better example because in the state of Maine, the state government has a law that says for areas that there is a bus route that goes by a private school, children may use it. And there are many areas of Maine where there may not be a public school for certain students. The one story I heard had a set of parents at the center of a legal case regarding public funded buses. Their area does not provide a public secondary school, high school. So they were given a stipend to send their students to a private school of their choice. Now, these parents chose a parochial school, a religious school. They were told they could not use that stipend, those funds, to send their students to that school. Basically, they were told you have to choose a secular school. The Supreme Court stated that's not right. That's not legal because you are literally prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That is just a power specifically delegated to the state or the federal government. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It doesn't state that you can only choose a Christian school or a Jewish school or a Muslim school or a Buddhist school or any other religion. It says any school that you choose. If you are receiving the stipend, it can go to that school. And that is the core of school choice. That parents should be the ones choosing where their children go to school. I know in the city that I went to high school in, there were a couple of programs only available at one of the multiple high schools in my area. For my 10th and 11th grade year, we were a 3-year school. We had 4 high schools. Now, during my senior year, a 5th had been added. And ninth grade students were shuffled all around to determine which middle schools would send their students to which high schools. They had never attended high school. They were still in middle school, so it didn't affect them much. 10th grade students who were entering 10th grade would go to their new high school. 11th grade students, unless they could prove they had a need to stay where they were, would go to their new high school. Seniors were not made to change if they did not wish to, for any reason. For example, though, my high school was the only one in our city that offered junior ROTC. We had several students that specifically wanted to take that course. And rather than impose on their families when they were too young to drive, or have to make them go to summer school because you have to give them the period before and the period after the ROTC period, or make them take second to last period off and then go to ROTC last period, having them drive sometimes the entire length or breadth of the city to get to our school, they simply transferred and they would come to our school for the entire day. It worked well. There are other cities where, for example, only one of the high schools offers an ag class or a welding class. And students who wish to take it, if they are close enough and it's offered in either first or last period, they can choose to transfer or choose to commute. If they're not close enough, they can choose to transfer. It's the same thing in Maine. And in fact, in the case that was brought, it wasn't I want a program. It was, there is no school for me. My parents wish to send me here. You're telling my parents they may not because the school happens to be faith-based. That's the core of what the Supreme Court is there to do. Interpret the law based on the Constitution. Not just interpret the law, but interpret the law as it pertains to the Constitution. Justice Alito's opinion, which is the majority opinion, states that as abortion is not delegated to the federal government to decide and legislate on. It should be decided on and legislated on by each individual state. Now, as much as I disagree with abortion, and as much as I have looked into it and found that less than 0.5% of abortions happen because of anything to do with the health of the mother, and less than 1% happen due to rape or incest. So we're dealing now with 98% or less, and I'm sorry, 98% or more simply being convenient. But there are states now that are preparing to issue legislation that quite simply state you can abort for any reason at any time. Found out your child is male, don't want a male, abort. Found out your child is going to have 9 fingers instead of 10, you can abort. I disagree with that vehemently. That's eugenics. And that's something straight out of the diseased mind of Adolf Hitler. But the states are literally following the Constitution on this. And I can disagree with it all I want, but my state is not doing that. My state is legislating in the other direction. There are other states legislating more harshly than my state, stating that only if a medical doctor states that to save the life of the mother, the child must be aborted. And this is one where it's, if I don't do this, both will die. If I do this, only one will. And if a medical doctor states that, unless you're a more accomplished and more educated medical doctor, it's hard to argue with that. And that's what states like South Dakota are legislating. But here's the core of the issue, and it's twofold. First of all, you have 3 choices when it comes to the laws in your state. If you disagree with the laws on abortion in your state, you can, 1, cry and moan about it and demand the world obey you. You're not going to get very far on that. You do not have a right to riot and harm people and destroy property. Option 2, move. You can move to a state like California, New York, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, where their laws are more in line with the liberal side of politics. Or option 3, you can begin to lobby your friends, neighbors, and other residents of the state to try to change how they vote, to try to change the political makeup of the state legislature, and therefore change the laws in the state. That is the core of republicanism. The voters have the power. If you don't like how something in your state is going, you don't act like a toddler and simply demand that it be changed because you want it changed. You really have 2 adult choices. 1, try to change it through republicanism. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, your coworkers, others around you. Hold rallies, hold meetings where you discuss, dissent, and debate as adults, and you try to sway their opinion and change their minds to bring them in line with what you believe. I've been a part of many grassroots organizations like that, and we've had some success and we've had some failures. But when we failed, we don't whine and cry and just demand we be obeyed. We regroup, look at what happened that caused it not to work the way we wanted, and we try again. Or you can just abandon your state, move to one that is already in line with your politics, and live under the laws you wish to have. But what you don't ever have a right to do is lie. Amy Schumer, Chelsea Handler, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and so many more are spreading falsehoods. Some of them are doing it rather ingeniously because they know if they outright lie, they'll be caught. But they couch it in language that is so close to a lie, but not really, that, well, if they're pressed on it, they can say, well, it's not really a lie. One, there will not be back alley abortions. Abortions today just don't happen that way. The extreme vast majority of them are chemical, through the pill, basically an induced miscarriage or an induced stillbirth. There are many states, like South Dakota, that are going to look to block this. And much like if you order medication from Canada that is not FDA or CDC approved, if you order something in your state that is specifically banned, you're going to pay the consequences for it if you're caught. Just as if you order a treatment for something from Canada that is not approved by the government of the United States, you're going to pay the price when you get caught. It's that simple. The other part of it is, and this is another one that they're trying to spread a falsehood on, when you actually look at the laws, like those in South Dakota, they don't punish the woman. They don't punish the mother who makes that choice. They punish the person performing the procedure. They don't put the woman in jail. They put the person doing it to the woman in jail, or fine them, or yank their professional license. This is akin to a law that was passed in Texas some time ago, which, and I'm quoting almost verbatim here, anyone who for any reasons transports any minor across state lines for the purposes of any medical procedure, save one deemed necessary to save the minor's life, shall have committed a crime. Naturally, the ACLU sued and stated, well, this is only about abortion. There's no other way. They will never enforce this for anything else. When in fact, Texas already had, because a young girl wanted a rhinoplasty, nose job. And she got one of her older friends to take her, I believe, into Arkansas to get it done. And the friend was prosecuted, the girl was not. And of course, they did that just to make us look bad. And the ACLU argued in front of their friendly judge and demanded that this law be struck down. This is what overturning Roe does. It basically says, no, you can't just demand the Fed rule on this. We're specifically prohibited from doing it by the Constitution. I am adamantly against abortion. I'm not a medical doctor, so if a medical doctor says, if we don't act, they both die, but if I do this, the mother will live, I'm going to trust the doctor. And at the end of all things, at the end of days, that's between the doctor and God. If the doctor lied, God will know. I have no say in it. But when it's just simply, well, I don't want to be pregnant, or I don't want a boy, I don't want a girl, I don't want this birth defect that's going to make things more difficult for me to raise a child, that's just wrong. Very, very wrong. And unfortunately, it's something that our world is starting to praise and just demand be accepted. And I never will. But I also don't accept the lies being spread about this decision. For one, it was not old white men. Clarence Thomas is rather old, but he's not white. And Coney-Barrett is about my age, maybe a few years off, like Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. She happens to be white, but she's female. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh are very near my age. I don't think that qualifies as old anymore. So you have Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Alito, who is not white, and Coney-Barrett. 6 out of the 9. But of course, Alito, Thomas, and Coney-Barrett are just ignored, and they say, well, so it's just old white men. It was actually a bunch of old white men that made the choice in 73, but they liked those old white men. And now they're preparing to riot, burn cities down, assault people. James Revenge has already said that the results of what they do next will not be as easy to clean up as when they firebombed crisis pregnancy centers. People who demand the right to choose firebombed a center that simply counseled not to kill the child. They demand the right to choose, but apparently It's the right to choose what they tell people to choose. And that is wrong, plain and simple. I know this will upset some people who see it, and I'm not sorry. These are my beliefs. I'm not going to change them. Human life begins at the moment of conception. God states that before he formed us in the womb, he knew us. That means that we are more than flesh and blood. And when we become flesh and blood, that is the moment our human life begins. I would simply pray that you have listened to this with an open mind and an open heart, and that we can have a civil, logical, adult discussion. Dissent and debate are the cornerstone of learning. When you dissent and debate, you force both people to go back to their books, solidify their positions, solidify their arguments. That's when you force them to learn more. When you simply scream and yell and hurl insults and demand that other people be silenced, you prove not that you are right, but that you fear what they're saying. It was said more poetically, though. When you tear out a man's tongue, you prove not that he is weak or that he is wrong, but that you fear what he has to say. And quite simply, I'm not going to let anyone silence me. I may be pulled from this platform and I may be pulled from others, but there are so many platforms out there, even if I'm standing on a street corner, speaking to whom I will. I just find it extremely sad that the entire political side of the aisle, that just a short 20 to 25 years ago was the party of peace, love, and tolerance, and we need to have a conversation. We can all come together and agree that we should all have our own beliefs, and we all have a right to that. And today they are the party of, no, you may not disagree, you may not dissent, you may not even speak. You will simply obey. You will simply do as you're told. I will not. I would pray that you have a good weekend and a good week next week. I would also ask for your prayers, as I am going through a rather difficult time in my life, but I know God has a plan, as always. And again, please keep the comments and the discussion civil. We're here to talk as adults, not scream and yell like children. And please make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because I don't know when I'll be posting again. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and God bless.